This is the unbelievable, scandalous, deeply emotional story of a 91-year-old Ghanaian woman who found herself at the center of a national scandal after being arrested for trying to steal life-saving medication for her dying husband. What started as an elderly woman's desperate act quickly spiraled into a political storm, a media frenzy, and the shocking unearthing of secrets that reached all the way to the upper levels of Ghana's health sector. It is a story of love, corruption, betrayal, and the unexpected power of a grandmother determined to save the man she had loved for nearly 7 decades. And it all began with one unfair price change from 50 cedis to 950 cedis. Our story starts in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Kumasi, where 91-year-old Abina Nkrumah lived with her 88-year-old husband, Kwaku Nkrumah. The two had married in 1958, and their relationship was legendary in their community, a true love story built on hardship, loyalty, and survival. But now, after 65 years of marriage, Kwaku was gravely ill. His heart condition had worsened, and doctors prescribed a specific medication that stabilized his heartbeat and kept him from slipping into dangerous attacks. The medication, a brand imported through a major pharmaceutical supplier in Accra, had always cost around 50 cedis, affordable, reliable, predictable, until suddenly it wasn't. On a hot Tuesday morning, Abina walked slowly with her wooden walking stick to a well-known pharmacy chain in Kumasi. She had made this journey dozens of times before. But today, when she handed the prescription to the young pharmacist, he scanned the box and said something that nearly made her collapse. "Madame, the price is now 950 cedis." Abina, thinking she had misheard him due to her age, leaned closer. "How much did you say?" The pharmacist, bored, repeated himself. 950, madame." Abina laughed. One of those disbelieving, nervous laughs that hide fear. "Young man, stop joking. I bought this medicine for 50 cedis last month." The pharmacist shrugged. "New pricing, madam. Check Ghana Health Service Bulletin." Abina emptied her purse on the counter. She had 62 cedis and 40 pursuers. "This is all I have," she whispered. The pharmacist apologized mechanically, but refused to release the medication. Abina begged. She pleaded. She explained that her husband would not survive without the pills. She told him that she had witnessed every major decade of Ghana's history, from independence to modern development. She had seen coups, droughts, and famine, but nothing, she said, had ever humiliated her like having to beg for the life of her husband. Still, the pharmacist stuck to the policy. No money, no medicine. Abina left the pharmacy in tears, and that's when everything changed. On Wednesday morning, she returned, but this time she was not carrying money. She carried a bag big enough to hide the medication in it. Witnesses later said they noticed that she looked strangely determined for someone her age. She walked up to the counter, asked a few harmless questions, waited until the pharmacist turned to assist another customer, and then very quickly slipped 2 boxes of the medication into her bag. Unfortunately, the store had recently installed new cameras due to a rise in petty theft. Within seconds, the alarm sounded. Staff locked the doors, and the police were called. Imagine the sight: a 91-year-old woman surrounded by police officers, hundreds of shocked onlookers, and the pharmacy staff yelling, "She stole medicine! She stole medicine!" Videos spread across social media within minutes. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. People watched as she was escorted out like a criminal. Someone even shouted "EI" at her age to it. Meanwhile, at home, Kwaku lay in bed, struggling to breathe and unaware that his wife, the woman who had sacrificed everything in life for their family, was now being placed in the back of a police vehicle. At the police station, the officers were confused. No one wanted to be the one to interrogate a 91-year-old suspect, but protocol forced them to process her anyway. As they asked her why she had stolen the medicine, she answered with only one sentence: "Because my husband will die if I don't." That line hit the officers like a punch to the chest. At first, it seemed the story would end there sad, unfortunate, but simple. But Ghana was about to learn that this was no ordinary case. Within hours, a lawyer offered to represent Abina for free. Activists demanded her release. Journalists dug into the medication's price hike and discovered something explosive. The sudden jump from 50 to 950 cedis was not just inflation, it was part of a corrupt scheme involving a high-ranking official in the Ministry of Health, several importation companies, and a chain of drug distributors who were inflating prices to generate illegal profits. And then came the biggest twist of all, when investigators traced the corruption chain. They discovered that the central figure behind the price hikes, the one who secretly owned shares in the pharmaceutical importation company, was none other than the nephew of the pharmacist who refused to help Abina. That nephew, according to leaked documents, had pushed for the drastic price increase to cover up millions of cedis diverted into private accounts. But wait, there was still more. When the scandal reached Parliament, an emergency inquiry was launched. The documents were presented, testimonies were heard. And during these hearings, an elderly witness stepped forward, an unexpected witness who had remained silent for decades. It was Kwaku himself. In a surprising turn, Kwaku revealed that the corrupt official at the center of the scandal had once been a student he mentored years ago. Kwaku had played a major role in helping this official get a scholarship abroad. In return, the official had promised to always honor the people who lifted him up. But instead, he became the architect of a corruption network that made medicine too expensive for Ghana's most vulnerable, including the very people who once supported him. The revelation shook the nation. Public anger exploded. Protests erupted outside the Ministry of Health. The official tried to flee the country, but was stopped at the airport. Arrests followed. Accounts were frozen. The pharmacy chain was audited. Prices were forced down immediately. Meanwhile, Abina became a national heroine. The charges against her were dropped. Donations poured in. A local NGO paid for Kwaku's full medical treatment, and several respected elders from the community visited the couple, praising Abina for her courage. But the biggest honor came weeks later. The president of Ghana invited her to the Jubilee House, where she was formally thanked for unintentionally exposing one of the largest medical corruption scandals in the country. As recent history, the president promised sweeping reforms to ensure that no Ghanaian young or old would ever have to choose between breaking the law and saving a loved one. And in front of the cameras, Abina said something that the entire country would never forget. "I am not a hero. I am just a wife who refused to watch her husband die." That single sentence became the headline across all major media outlets. Kwaku made a slow but steady recovery. The two lived together peacefully, this time without fear of rising medicine costs. But the story didn't end there. Months later, a journalist investigating the scandal revealed a final twist. The pharmacy worker who refused to give Abina the medication had been secretly recording conversations for the corrupt official, helping him identify pharmacies that resisted the price hike. His refusal to help Abina wasn't just policy, it was part of the corruption web. This revelation led to even more arrests and a deep cleanup of the entire pharmaceutical supply chain. And so, a 91-year-old grandmother, armed with nothing but desperation and love, helped dismantle a criminal network worth millions of cedis. Her act of theft became the spark that lit a fire across Ghana, and the lesson: sometimes, fighting injustice doesn't begin with the young, the powerful, or the influential. Sometimes it begins with a grandmother who simply refuses to lose the man she loves.